I'm here to talk about innovation and disruption, particularly disruption, turning disruption off. Now, why is that important? Because we've seen so many industries, from hotels to limos to payments, that have been totally disrupted. And leaders are worried. They're worried whether their business can keep up with the pace of change. And I don't know about you, but I get up in the morning and I feel like that guy in the rocket sled, you know, that guy whose face is just being peeled back by the forces of change. I mean, it's moving fast, right? So I want to talk about who and what is likely to disrupt your company. But more importantly, what can you do about it? So let's start by talking about forces of disruption, technological forces that underlie business disruption. And I want to start with connectivity, because connectivity is the basis of most of the companies that are disrupting the economy today. The internet, built to provide communications during a nuclear war, actually did something totally different. It allowed information to escape. Information found its freedom. Information is being beamed to us all the time, and we are empowered by the information we receive. And we kind of forget that at the beginning of the internet, information really only flowed one way. It was a tiny bit up and a lot more back, which is why the first page of Yahoo looked like that, and the first page of Travelocity looked like that. And there was another reason. It was slow, right? It was really slow. But, you know, even that limited connectivity equaled great opportunity for disruption. We disrupted music and mapping and news and photography and travel. And then we had a change because users began to create information themselves. They started making information flow in two directions. They began writing and selling and rating. And we've had this explosion of social data creation. So we began creating information ourselves. And that was added to by mobility, which came along just about at the same time. So we have 7 billion cell phones in the world today. 5 billion of them are network connected. 2 billion of them are smartphones, where we're constantly consuming and creating data. And it isn't just text. We take 1 trillion images a year on our cell phones. So more data being created. And then we have this explosion of sensor data, right? The Internet of Things. There are going to be 38 billion things connected to the Internet by 2020. Things like jet engines that are now constantly feeding data back to the airline. Things like pill bottles that can tell you when to take your drug. I'm part of the Internet of Things, because a couple of years ago, I got a tiny heart monitor the size of a paperclip injected in my chest, and every night it reports to the cloud on my heart performance. So I'm part of IoT. I think that's kind of cool, right? And what that's done, all those changes, is taken the little stream of data that was created back when Bill Gates was typing on a teletype and turned it into a raging torrent from IoT, from wearables, from your laptop, from your Apple Watch, a torrent of data. And that, of course, has created big data. Big data, and it's really big. It's 2.5 quintillion bytes created every day. 90% of the world's data is created in the last 3 years. 80% is unstructured data. It's blogs, it's audio, it's video. It's not rows and columns in a standard database. Huge amounts of data. Now, we had to have a place to put all that data, and that's where the cloud comes in. Now, what is the cloud anyway? It just means instead of having your own data center, we keep it at Amazon or Microsoft. Why is that important? Because it's instantly available, insanely inexpensive, and infinitely scalable, and drop dead easy. And what that has done is change the computing game. Today, 2 guys and a dog in Silicon Valley have as much computing power as the largest company in the world. That has changed the game. Now, we're getting disruption through big data. We had to figure out how to find the wisdom in it. We're doing that through advanced mathematics and algorithms. So Facebook News is an algorithm. We're finding out maybe that's not so great, right? 60% of the stock market, those trades are by algorithm. No people are doing it. You can't go appeal to them that your company is good. It's an algorithm. Blockchain, the basis of Bitcoin, is an algorithm. But it's also totally changing contracts and will probably eliminate auditing. So huge disruption from algorithms. Now, AI is also being used to attack big data. So if data is the new oil of the 21st century, AI is the refinery. And AI isn't coming in the future, it's here now. In your self-driving car, in your Amazon Echo, in Siri, in your Roomba vacuum. AI is all around us. So I could go on with 20 more technological pieces of disruption. But more importantly is what happens after the technology shows up, because technique follows technology. It takes a while to get the right technique, but techniques are coming forward now and they're creating totally new business models. Uber, the largest limo company, owns no vehicles. Facebook, the largest publisher, creates no content. Alibaba, the largest retailer, has no inventory. Airbnb doesn't own hotels. What do they own? They own the edge. They own the edge. Now, the edge used to be about location, about being at First and Main. But the edge today is being at the edge of the glass. Because that's where the customer is, whether they're shopping in the store or sitting in their easy chair. Apps rule the edge. Taco Bell just announced they get 20% higher average orders from an app than from the store. Why? Well, because there's nobody behind you kind of pushing you ahead, right? You got a lot of time, and you can read the whole menu instead of just those 6 things on the backboard. Waze has figured out the edge. They tell you when you're stuck in traffic. Now when you're stuck in traffic, they say, how about a donut? Dunkin' Donuts right here, right? GM is doing the same thing by putting IBM Watson in cars. Hey, go get a latte. It's right over there, right? Amazon is the best at this. So they have these dash buttons. You can put them all around your house. You can put them on your washing machine and press a button and order Tide from Amazon, right? And now they're building an API so that the washing machine can order its own Tide whenever it wants from Amazon. And guess what? Brother printers are already ordering their own ink, and Britas are ordering their own filters. What a lock! You going to reprogram your Brita to order from somebody else? Nah. And now we have Amazon Echo and Google Home and all these devices. Listen to how they work.
Alexa, order toilet paper.
Amazon's choice for toilet paper is Angel Soft Bath Tissue.
That's cool. Alexa, order a TV.
The top search result for 42-inch TV is Seiki SE43 543-inch 1080p LED TV. Should I order it?
Yes.
Why is that important? If you go to Amazon today, you see 30 brands of toilet paper. If you ask Alexa, you only hear about one. What is it going to cost to be that one? How much is that going to change how things are sold? Somewhere out there in Silicon Valley are a bunch of people saying, your margin is my opportunity. Your margin is my opportunity. They are changing the world by using OPA, other people's assets. Here's how it works. Let me show you on a Rubik's Cube. So this is traditional Amazon business model. And then Jeff said, let's sell used books. And the team said, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. And he said, no, think about it. We don't have to buy books, store books, ship books. We don't have to set the price or finance the inventory. We'll just do these 4 things, add some amazing software. Fulfillment by Amazon is half their business, no assets. Uber looked at limos, said, we don't want to own cars, licensed cars, service cars. The market enforces our standards, drivers find us. We'll just set prices, find clients, bill and collect. Add some software, become the biggest limo company in the world. Airbnb, same deal. Hey, what are we going to do? Hotels can find us. We're not going to provide security, manage the property, hire staff. We're not going to set prices. We're just going to do these 4 things, add some software, and become the biggest hotel company on earth. So, other people's assets. How about OPI? Other people's information. That's what hubs and platforms are doing. That's what Google is. It doesn't produce information, it brokers it, right? How about OPD? Other people's data. That's Kayak. We don't fly airplanes, we don't own hotels, we just created $2 billion worth of value with a tiny layer. These companies are about less capital and more speed. But you might be saying, well, wait a minute, that's not fair. I have the customers, I have the factory, I have the supply chain, I have the brand. But maybe you're not easy. And there's a mantra in Silicon Valley, step 1, install software. There is no step 2. It's that easy. So don't let some kid in Silicon Valley come eat your business. You have to own the assets and the edge. What's the new model? Well, recently I spoke to Hartford Steam Boiler Insurance, a 150-year-old company. They still insure steam boilers. I said, what are you doing today? They said, we're doing cyber insurance and we're insuring the Internet of Things. That's why they're 150 years old. They get it. They're changing. How about ONI? Outcomes, not iron. That's what asset companies are doing. So General Electric will now sell you a jet engine by uptime. You want it up 99% of the time? Here's what it costs. You don't have to buy it. You can rent it, right? They have enough data, they can do that. Insurance companies are saying, put this sensor in your car and I'll sell you an outcome because I know what kind of risks you take. John Deere and Dow are saying, if you use a John Deere corn drill, you use Dow fertilizer, we will guarantee your crop yield. Outcomes. Outcomes are powerful. More productivity, less energy, more safety. Outcomes, not iron. You control the edge yourself. You can own the asset and the edge. You've got to do it because you can't play whack-a-mole with 3,000 startups. You just can't keep up. You have to change. What's holding you back from being a disruptor yourself? Maybe it has to do with risk. Do you avoid it, reduce it, transfer it? In this world, you have to accept it. Now, I started my career as a receptionist in a travel agency 45 years ago. 6 months in, my boss said, hey, let's go and do a startup. And you might think that was a big risk. It was really a small risk. I was 21, lived in an apartment, I was single, wasn't making much money anyway. We turned it into the 50th largest travel company in the US. Later, I went to work for American Airlines. I spent 18 years crawling up the ladder until I was CIO. When I was CIO, I decided to take a huge risk. I was married, I had 2 kids, a big mortgage, a big salary. I said, you know, there's this little online thing we got called Easy Saver, a couple of people. I want to do that. Everybody said, you're crazy. Took a big risk. We turned it into Travelocity, took it public for $1.2 billion. Since that time, I've taken a bunch of little risks. I'm an author, a speaker. I've been on 13 public and private boards. If I look back on those companies, some shrank, some flamed out entirely, and the rest created $6 billion worth of value. Now I'm all in again with my time and my treasure. I've got a new startup, Wayblazer.ai, applying AI to the travel business. People say, Terry, do you have to do another startup? I say, no. I'm on Medicare, man. I don't have to do anything. I want to do it. Take the first risk. Your company was initially founded on risk, but it probably doesn't take risks anymore. You must. You have to take risks to move forward. And you have to make better decisions. You're probably stuck in corporate pinball. Many people envy Silicon Valley. There's only 2 guys that make decisions like this. But see, in a corporation, you have an idea and you launch it out there. You're so excited, and then marketing has some questions. And then IT doesn't really like it. And then if you get by them, well, then service says, well, we can't service it. Manufacturing says we can't build it. And if you get past them, well, now it's time for the big guns because they roll out finance and legal and, well, it's just game over, right? That's decisions in big corporations, but get what? Together as a company, you have more intelligence than 2 people in Silicon Valley. But you have to stop closing the door and saying no. Your job is to get the idea to the finish line, to get it over, to say yes. And maybe you're just chained to an old model. You know, you say, well, Bob, we've always done it this way, and we've never done it that way. Look, what is dangerous is not to evolve. Face your fears. Established companies view disruption as a threat instead of saying, how can we do that? How can we do that? I'm old enough to know you can't close your mind to new ideas. You have to test out every possibility if you want to solve something new, said John Goodenough, the inventor of the lithium battery. He's 94. He didn't just say it, he lives it, because he just invented at 94 a battery that's going to put lithium out of business. Awesome. Their innovation is your disruption. But disruption, innovation, they're just two sides of the same coin. You just call it a disruption because you didn't do it, right? So stop being disruptive and innovate. And don't just recreate the past with these new tools. Reimagine what life can be. Chuck Hall invented the 3D printer. It was said he was looking at a CNC machine, which is subtractive. And he said, what if we had an additive device? And he looked at an inkjet printer. And what are people doing now? They're making hands for kids who never had them. They're making ears that can hear with simulated skin. They're reimagining. We had radio-controlled airplanes for years. It took a Mexican immigrant who took apart his Nintendo to invent the first drone. And of course, we just recreated the past. We said, oh, we can make a crop duster with a drone. And then people got smarter and said, we could help the farmer. We could sense where crops needed more water, where they need more fertilizer. They reimagined. So reimagine in this new world. Finding disruption isn't easy. You have to think about risk. You have to say yes. You have to let go of old models. And I wish there was a key on the keyboard for innovation, but there isn't. And I know you think you have a tough job. You do. And when you add all these new technologies, it gets harder. But you don't have the toughest job. They have the toughest job. They're the great Walendas, the world's best wire act. You know what their mission statement is? You fall, you die. They have a tough job. You can do this. If you understand that change is inevitable, but success is optional. And the future is a foreign country, and they do things differently there. Thank you very much. Thank you. So I want to talk tonight about travel and about 21st century travel. And I think we should remember that travel is the sherbet between courses of reality, right? Travel is dessert. Travel should be fun. But travel planning isn't always fun. The average consumer searches over 20 sites before they decide what they want to buy. So maybe I can help. I've been on this road a long time. When I was 21, I spent a year traveling around the world with two buddies, so that was a good education. I started my career as a receptionist in a travel agency 40 years ago. I've been a travel agent. I was a tour guide in Russia. I've been a tour operator. I founded a travel agency. I've been a vice president of an airline. I served on boards of 3 travel companies, La Quinta Hotels, Luxury Link, and Smart Destinations. I was the chief information officer at American Airlines and Sabre. When I was CIO, they gave me this little project called Easy Sabre. It was on AOL and CompuServe. And I took that product and we put it online and called it Travelocity.com. And we took that from a team of 12 to over $10 billion in sales. After Travelocity was taken private, I helped found Kayak.com, where I served as chairman with these two gentlemen who ran the product. We took it public and then we sold it to Priceline for $1.8 billion. I recently founded my 4th travel startup, Wayblazer, which is using artificial intelligence to try to revolutionize travel once again. So I'm not that guy from the movie Up in the Air, but I did spend 150 nights in hotels last year. and I have been to over 100 countries. So I'm going to try to offer some advice, mostly from a U.S. perspective. I put a little Canadian flavor in here, but you guys know more about that than I do. But since the #1 site in Canada is Expedia, I think I can talk about that. So I want to talk about 21st century travel planning. What's changed in the 21st century? We've got all these terms from sharing to bidding to auction to flash sites, and it's all pretty confusing. And it's really based on the changes that have come through in technology. Now, the introduction was right. When I went to work at Vega Travel, the very first day they said you have to make this reservation via telegram. And even I was a little shocked at that time. We weren't that advanced, but I didn't think telegrams were still in use. But they actually were. And that was back in what we call IT phase 1. Back when computers were adding up the books, toting up the sales, making the reservations. And then an interesting thing happened because airfares were deregulated, and we started putting automation into travel agents. And that's what caused this huge spike of growth of travel agents, because suddenly prices were all different, flights were all different. You had to call people for a booking. And travel agents got up to 80% market share of airline seats. And then something else happened. Right? The internet was introduced. And we got to IT phase 2, which are systems of engagement, systems in which we engage our customers online. And that led to the rise of online agents, particularly Travelocity and Expedia, which were the first big ones. And 18,000 travel agents went out of business in the US. But surprisingly to many people, 18,000 are still there and adding value. And I know some of you here are agents. And my daughter is a travel agent of all things. So I spent my life putting them out of business, and she is one. How does that work, right? So there are some secrets in this business. 2 companies have been gobbling up everybody else. Expedia gobbled up all these various companies. So as you watch them disappear, you can see that Priceline and Expedia have really taken everybody else, I think this is stopped for some reason, off the table. So they are the 2 major brands now in the United States, and they own everybody else. Online agents are actual registered travel agents. They have a wide variety of products. They certainly have large customer service organizations. They are safe and reliable, but I'd say today they're peas in a pod. And travel suppliers may be hostile to you if you book through an online agent. You may have experienced that when you check in at a hotel or an airline. They say, oh, you booked through one of those guys. You don't get points, or you can't cancel your flight. You can't make a change. And they don't offer some airlines, like in the United States, none of these guys offer Southwest. Now, their airline prices in the US are not better than the airlines. Their chain hotel prices are no longer better than chains. So all the brand hotels have said to the online guys, we won't give you better prices than you could find on their own websites. In fact, today, many times you could find lower prices on Marriott or on Hyatt than you can directly from the supplier. Their international hotel pricing may be quite good. Their package pricing is very good. And their cruise pricing may be good. So if you're just buying air in a chain hotel, you might go to Expedia or Travelocity or Orbitz because you like them, because you find them easy to use. That's great. Don't expect to find a lower price. But internationally, with dynamic packaging or cruise pricing, they may be good. So Expedia really invented this thing, this dynamic packaging where you put air and hotel or cruise and hotel together at a discount. And those prices are great. They do that on the fly. They are now the world's largest travel agency. Travelocity.com, when I took it public for $1.2 billion, they recently kind of committed suicide. They outsourced all their technology to Expedia, and they eventually sold to Expedia for $250 million. So they destroyed about $1 billion worth of value in the 10 years after I left them. So they're part of Expedia now. Orbitz was founded by the airlines to kill Travelocity. Its internal code name was Travelocity Terminator. And so the airlines put that together in the US. It's been bought and sold several times. It focused on customer service and was sold to Expedia for $1.2 billion. So Expedia is a house of brands, but they've done something I think is damaging and doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think Dara, who ran Expedia until recently, now he's the president of Uber, did something kind of funny. They put all these sites with the same back end, but they gave them the same front end. They now look identical when you book. So people say to me, what is the difference between Travelocity, Orbitz, and Expedia? And my answer is absolutely nothing. There is no difference at all between those three sites. They run on the same computer backend. They have the same suppliers. They are the same. So you can pick any one. They're peas in a pod. Priceline has a different perspective. They're a house of brands, but they really have great differentiation in their products. So Booking.com is the engine behind Priceline. It's why they're worth over $100 billion. Booking.com is quite different than Priceline. And Kayak, which they purchased as well, also very different. So they let those sites run on their own. They do leverage some purchasing together. They leverage what they do with Google. But you'll find different prices, different suppliers, and different software on Priceline's owned products. Now, there's another site in the United States called Cheapo Air. Surprisingly, it's the second largest site for airline sales. It has a kind of a funny name, Cheapo. It's great for international, and they do something that most other online companies don't do. They push people to the phone. They have a great customer service department, and actually they make a lot of their money through people who call because they're able to sell lots of ancillary products. So they're very good at international flights and cheap international flights. Now, Flight Network, you know very well, much better than I do. Seems like an interesting site because they guarantee lowest fare and they'll match other people's prices. And most US sites won't do that. So that, to me, that's a very interesting selling point, that they will match anybody else's low price. So in Canada, Expedia CA #1, Flight Network 2, Hotwire #3, also owned by Expedia, Red Tag Vacations, and then iTravel 2000. This is the last study I could find. Now, what about portals? Some people book with Bing and some people book with Google. There's really nothing special here. They outsource most of their work, so it's either advertising or they're using some other engine like Expedia or Travelocity. So you may find them easy to use. You're not going to find anything particularly special if you look at their products, although a lot of people start there. Now, there are also consolidators. Travel agents have used consolidators for years. Many of them are online. They offer extremely cheap international airfares, business class deals, but read the reviews. Usually the problem with these guys is they have terrible customer service, but they may have awesome prices. Many of them are ethnically based, so you may see a great site for going to Korea or going to China or going to Malaysia or going to India. They market to their ethnic groups, but they do get extraordinary, interesting airfares. So there are a lot of them around, but read the reviews. Now, how many people here have flown on Ryanair? Okay, lots of you. An amazing company, the airline that goes from nowhere to nowhere is what people say, because they go from airports you've never heard of to other airports you've never heard of, but they do it incredibly cheaply. I mean, this airline is so cheap, they took out the window shades to save fuel, okay? They are really cheap, and they upcharge you for everything, right? If you don't check in online, you get an upcharge. If you check a bag, you get an upcharge. If you bring on carry-on, you get an upcharge. If you look out the window the wrong way, you get an upcharge. They upcharge you for everything, but you can go at a rock-bottom price. So if you want to go from nowhere to nowhere for hardly any money and put up with it, it's awesome. But you can be very afraid if you don't know what you're doing, because you can end up paying a lot of money if you don't know kind of their shtick. So read the reviews, understand how they work. You could save a lot of money, and there isn't much difference between airlines. It's sort of 2 hours in an aluminum tube with nasty people, no matter who you fly on, right? It's not a great experience. So Ryanair's okay. EasyJet, very simple, very similar. Both of them great ways to get around Europe. And you know what I've left out of this is, of course, the huge change in Europe because of high-speed rail. Jean-Louis Metzler of SNCF was the guy who really started that. I had the great honor to work with him because we took the Sabre system at American Airlines and taught it about trains. And we took a Sabre reservation system and it was implemented at SNCF. That was really the first high-speed rail. High-speed rail in Europe has basically eliminated inter-European air flights. Most people take the train. It's so much better. It's more comfortable. It's downtown to downtown. It's the way to go. And it's the only way I travel inside Europe because it's awesome. So I shouldn't have left it out. Complex air trips are hard. Most people go to agents for really complicated trips. But there is one site that does that. It's called AirTrex. They'll actually price around the world fares. And by the way, I'll give you a list of this stuff at the end. So lesson 1 is that online travel agents don't have the best domestic and hotel prices. The airlines and hotels do, with the exceptions of packages. So if you want the lowest prices, go direct. Now, meta search, what does that mean? Well, after I left Travelocity, one night I had a dinner with the founder of Expedia and the founder of Orbitz and a venture capitalist and myself, and we said, you know, our customers are getting smarter. First, they're searching Travelocity and Expedia for price, and then they're going direct to American and Marriott to buy. Now, I know none of you have ever done that, but you know, we found lots of people were doing that, and so we invented meta search. And meta search simply means that we search everything, but we offer a choice of where you buy, and you can click and buy direct from the carrier. And that gives you lots and lots of choice of where you buy. And then when you click, let's say to American, you're not taken to the first page, you're taken to the last page. They already know your name, they know everything else, and you buy. So the suppliers like it because the customer is highly likely to purchase, and consumers like it because it's quick and easy and they buy directly from the supplier. So they get those points, they get the discount, they bought direct, but they're able to comparison shop first. Hipmunk is another site that does that. They have kind of an interesting chart basis that shows you what they call the agony index, and how long you're going to be in a tiny seat, which plane has the most room. Trivago. Are you seeing a lot of ads for Trivago up here? Yeah, they're on TV like crazy. They're probably spending, well, I know they're spending way too much money. They're trying to build their brand. We'll see how that works. Priceline is pummeling them. But they're very similar to Kayak. Skyscanner, which was recently sold, is similar. So meta search can be a really good way for you to comparison shop, but don't comparison shop and then leave and go to Marriott or American. Just click. That's how those companies make money, but it's also easier because you don't have to start over. You get right to the last page and make your booking. So meta search saves time and you book direct. You'll rarely find a better price by searching farther for air or domestic hotels. Speaking of hotels, we can talk about hotels.com, which apparently is quite big up in Canada. It's owned by Expedia. They have some very good discounts. So hotel.com is worth checking, not for chain hotels, but for other hotels. Booking.com is really the engine that made Priceline. Excellent international rates, very comprehensive. Again, if you're not booking a chain, Booking.com is great. Now, what is the order? You know, when you go to these sites and say, what does this say? It's a little hard for me to see. Most popular. That really means most profitable for them. So the order is most profitable. So never go with the default order. Always put in a location or a brand or something else, because what you see there is exactly the same thing you see on Google. It's paid placement. It is in the order of profitability, not in the order of what's best for you.